look at this. Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Day 3 of training camp. It's Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable here at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. Mr. Bo Brock, we just left the stadium in Glendale. Quite a few takeaways. Some good, maybe some not so good.
Yeah, we'll start with the good. How about that?
Yeah,
How about the direction, the new culture for the Arizona Cardinals that left tackle DJ Humphries says was a culture shock.
Yep.
Jonathan Gannon really setting the tone 3 days in the training camp, and following suit is not a disgruntled Budda Baker. I wouldn't say that, he's the happiest of all employees, but he's certainly on board with what JG's selling.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, got good comments, good bites from both JG and Budda, but we started our day talking with Jonathan Gannon amongst the many Arizona media members, and Gannon was specifically asked, and you could tell, like the clip we have, I don't even think does it justice.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody brought up, not this show, not these reporters, but somebody brought up the idea to JG. Did you have to convince Budda Baker to come back despite the rebuild that the Cardinals are going through? And I'm paraphrasing. And the look that Jonathan Gannon gave this poor media member was that of just a significant death stare. Do not bring up rebuild. Certainly do not bring up tank in front of JG, especially as it relates to Jonathan Gannon. Producer Emma, I think we have this bite.
Yeah, I think all spots are open for grabs right now on the entire team.
Let's try. Do we have it?
As far as Budda Baker,
Budda wants to play football and he's a warrior. He wants to win, and hopefully he feels that from me and the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, he just had to hold himself back from just saying, guys, we're not trying to lose games, and I didn't have to convince Budda Baker to come here and lose 17 games. Like, can we pump the brakes on that? I know it's in vogue. Everybody wants to talk about this team not winning, and Budda Baker was asked as much, but like these projections, you can tell, like, it's one thing to dick around in May and June and say Cardinals are going to be terrible, blah. We're in camp now, and for people just to basically come out and say that, hey, you guys may only win 4 games, that pisses some people off.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Budda Baker said he's all in as far as where he stands as far as that, and kind of getting rid of the outside noise. And Budda Baker getting a full rundown of his likes as far as describing him from Jonathan Gannon. Let me tell you something about Budda Baker. He loves football. He's a warrior, and he's here to win football games. And that's the mentality of the rest of this football club. And you love to hear it. Look, Monty Austinfort's doing one job. Jonathan Gannon's doing another job, and the players are doing another job as well. I mean, Monty Austinfort's job is to pave the way in the front office, roster structure-wise, for this future to draft and develop.
Yeah.
And he didn't give the Arizona Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon that much ammo to produce this season. He didn't go all in free agency. He was, obviously handcuffed with the draft picks this season for the most part, with what he was kind of what he took over.
Yeah.
But, Monty Austinfort's job is to rebuild this roster, and he has his way of going about it. But don't get that lost. That doesn't get lost. Jonathan Gannon is focused on winning football games. The players in that locker room are focused on doing their job, and that's the right mentality as far as the rebuild goes.
Listen, this network had access to Caleb Williams, and we asked Caleb Williams about potentially becoming a member of the Arizona Cardinals, doing our job and our due diligence, because Caleb Williams is projected to be the first overall pick. Jonathan Gannon, that's the furthest thing from his mind, is Caleb Williams and next April and where the team may or may not finish. Their eyes and ears are set on week 1 against the Commanders. They expect to win that game. They expect to win week 2 against the New York Giants. They are taking the approach, even though a lot of people may dismiss it, of winning this season. Now, will that come to fruition? I'm pretty excited when I watch this team. Are there all pros everywhere? No. But for the first time in about 20 years, they're embracing young players. They're embracing empowering young players and putting young players like Isaiah Simmons in positions to have the most success of their professional career. I mean, you look at big number 70, Paris Johnson, does not look like a rookie, is not being treated like a rookie, was in the locker room with the vets yesterday like he's a rookie, like he's a starter, because he is. Michael Wilson, we're going to talk about him. He's mixing it up with the ones on offense. So I get it. It's not in vogue to say, well, the Cardinals are going to be competitive this year. But I just, for Jonathan Gannon and Budda Baker, the time is now. The time isn't next spring. The time isn't in 2025. yes, we both hope that they're still here, members of the Arizona Cardinals. But for this fall, right now, there's a sense of urgency. And you see that every time you watch this team practice.
Well, Budda Baker outlined it several times today as people tried to kind of poke and prod, this offseason, his contract request, his potential trade request this offseason. He never definitively said he wanted out of the desert, but, the reports are there, and I don't think anybody also is denying that. But Budda Baker understands it's a results league. Yeah. And if you don't produce, especially on a personal level and work within the team, structure, you're not going to have a lot of success in this league. And ownership, front office are going to find guys that can't. And it's a, what have you done for me lately league? And even when you're staring down a rebuild, the players, they have to show up. The coaching staff has to show up because they are, as far as how they're evaluated, it's the results on the playing field. Monty Ossenfort's operating in a different way. And like I see Emil, and what's up? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the show. Embracing, as far as the tank season, we have fun with tank. We embrace the fun parts of the tank. We have Tank Tuesdays every week here on PHNX Cardinals. The fun aspect of that, getting to watch and scout college players, top tier college players, because the Cardinals have 2 premium first round picks their own, and the Houston Texans, and then 6 within the top 3 rounds. The fun part as far as that goes, and what maybe not winning would gift the Arizona Cardinals in another hard season. But also it's the Arizona Cardinals understand like that the players aren't just going to go lay down out there.
No,
Jonathan Gannon's not going to lay down.
AZ fan, 1998, great year. Cardinals made the playoffs that year. $2 super chat, bold prediction: Cardinals go to the playoffs under JG. I mean, I want to see that come to fruition, whether it's this year or next year, or whenever that happens. But I mean, Gannon's an impressive guy. And you can tell that his impact has already been felt within this franchise and Monty Ossenfort to some extent. But the day-to-day, that belongs to JG. And Budda Baker spoke about this as much, talking about Jonathan Gannon and the little things that they've implemented. Listen to this bite from the All-Pro safety.
I mean, there's multiple details that they've said and came across that, made me, want to believe them. Just little details, they preach on the little details, even as small as, making sure when you come into meetings, you're wearing Cardinals gear. Just those little details, and, finding someone if they're 30 seconds late to a meeting. Little things like that is where you develop a culture, you develop things that, that you like. And for me, it's been great.
Look, I've said this. I told you this as we were making our way back to the studio. I think Budda Baker is less than content with his situation, right? I think he obviously has a lot of pride, has loyalty to this organization that drafted him, made him at one point the highest paid safety, and has given him the chance to become one of the best safeties in the league. Whatever the hell, screw whatever the hell the NFL on its top 100 list, says, him 73rd. But him understanding and being the epitome of the Jonathan Gannon, Monty Ossenfort, Arizona Cardinals as far as what they want from a player, and then seeing them hold players accountable, and it not just being an empty word, right? And seeing that it's going to benefit them down the road when players are reprimanded for just being just late to a meeting, or guys that are not wearing and embracing and wearing the Cardinals colors or logo, going in different areas of their training or as far as their studies go. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's continuing to lead by example, and coming off of an offseason where he was away from the team because of a contract dispute. He just gets right back on track.
Well, and he's the one I feel like you don't have to hold accountable, because he holds himself accountable. And we saw that last year on Hard Knocks. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, how much different could this be from what Cliff Kingsbury did last year? Well, let me tell you how different it was. Well, while players were allowed to stay at home last year during training camp, and that's subsequently how Hollywood Brown got his extreme speeding ticket, and was it an arrest as a result? Players have to be with the Cardinals at the hotel and the team facility. Like, you do not have an option to stay away. And then additionally, what is the example you like to use is Leki Fotu last year during the team's 7-game losing streak as a part of Hard Knocks, during individual drills, defensive tackle drills, was making pancakes for the defensive line. Like they were trying to go through film and they were working on technique.
It was waffles. He had the waffle.
He was
press.
making waffles. And now it's like, if you're 30 seconds late to a team meeting, you are fined. If you don't have Cardinal gear on, get some Cardinal gear on. There was just so much individualism and just like Mickey Mouse bullshit that was a part of this
Calvin
franchise.
Beachum had to go to the hospital because he ate too much popcorn? Can you imagine if
What?
this coaching
I
forgot about that?
I blocked that out.
That was in Hard Knocks. That was a main topic in Hard Knocks. Calvin Beachum at the time, one of the more well-respected, and I'm not trying to like drag Calvin
Listen,
Beachum
we've
here,
all been there.
but there was a point where he ate so much popcorn and he wasn't feeling healthy, and he went to the hospital and they said, yeah, dude, it's nothing serious. You just ate too much popcorn.
I refuse to believe that. I know it happened. We lived it. We all lived it together. Yeah.
That ain't happening any longer.
Yeah.
And if it does, your ass is either fined or in trouble in some sort of way. Yeah, Chase, absolutely. Grown-ups finally in the building. And that's what should give you, is we haven't seen Jonathan Gannon coach a down for the Arizona Cardinals. We haven't seen his coaching staff in action, even in the preseason. But it gives you faith. It gives you optimism that they're the right guys.
Popcorn to the hospital. You feel difference in the facility. You feel difference with the vibe around the coaching staff. And I want Jonathan Gannon to work. I'd be lying to you right now if I told you this is going to work. They're going to consistently make the playoffs. They're going to contend for Super Bowls. But what I do know is whatever the hell they were doing under Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim was the opposite of what works. And they tried to get by with individual talent and star players. I mean, frankly, let's just call it what it is. And I was talking to producer Emma about this before the show. There's no J.J. Watt. There's no DeAndre Hopkins, right? There's no Chandler Jones of years past. Like, they have talent. It's young, but the proven talent on the team, I would say, is right now few and far between. Kyler Murray's not practicing. Zach Ertz isn't practicing. I mean, unless you're counting like James Conner and company, maybe a little bit of Hollywood Brown, who didn't practice today. They have a lot of unknowns on this roster. But they would take that every step of the way because they told DeAndre Hopkins, $21 million, get the hell out of here. They are literally taking a bulldozer, a wrecking ball to this roster and remaking it to their liking so that in 12 to 18 months, guess who's the star on this team? Paris Johnson Jr., Michael Wilson, right? These young players that they're going to help elevate, hopefully like a Zaven Collins. So I think that it's easy to confuse talentless with unproven. And I think the Cardinals are more unproven than they are lacking talent.
Yeah, I completely agree with it. I also like this no air raid offense comment. I mentioned this to you the other day after the comments came out of Broncos camp that Sean Payton was just crushing Nathaniel Hackett, and maybe the Cardinals absolutely dodged a bullet by not getting the most popular and as far as biggest vast resume on the coaching market this offseason and gone the right direction with Jonathan Gannon. Absolutely. I mean, I think Jonathan Gannon understands, he's not going to get caught just crushing another guy, part of the tribe, as far as a guy who didn't even get to spend a full season as a first-year head coach for the Broncos. And I don't see any kind of arrogance. I see confidence, but I don't see any kind of arrogance either.
I think this roster is needed for Jonathan Gannon and vice versa. I think Gannon was the perfect fit for where this team needs to go. Like, the Cardinals are not in a position, I believe, with Sean Payton now in hindsight. Like, I think Sean Payton has a shelf life in terms of an NFL head coach, John Gruden style. And they're going all in to try to compete and win this year, and that's great for the Denver Broncos and our friends at DNVR. We of course wish them immense success, but Cardinals are taking a much different down the road and intermediate view for this roster, and that does not, in my opinion, line up with Sean Payton. It's almost kind of like Bruce Arians had a shelf life in Arizona, right? You got 6 great years with Bruce Arians, but you knew, like, they're hoping Jonathan Gannon is the head coach of this team for 15 years. They want him to be the stalwart. You had told me something while we were walking in the facility, like Cliff Kingsbury is significantly older than Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah.
But you would never know that listening to Gannon speak, how he carries himself. This roster is very impressionable, and so they need somebody like this to follow, somebody that they can relate to. I asked Marco Wilson in the locker room after practice, like, what's it like having a defensive back coach as a head coach? And he was beaming because he and the other DBs are relishing this opportunity. I think that's why, at the end of the day, Budda Baker is going to play his best football under Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, and we'll see from Isaiah Simmons, somebody we talked to JG about today. And he he gave us an in-depth answer, something we didn't get from the previous regime. This isn't like crush Cliff Kingsbury time, and
It is.
I kind of agree with the take in the chat about Steve Keim, no doubt about it. I mean, Monty Osfort and Jonathan Gannon, at this point, they really seem to have been the right choices to go out there and get an external GM and to get some fresh eyes on this organization and where it was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was lacking in a significant amount of departments. It breathes confidence into this organization that was rudderless for far too long.
Yeah, I want to bring up a quick point. We had an opportunity to visit with Josh Weinfuss of ESPN before practice started today, and he's been covering the team for some time, was a part of the organization. He said something that stood out to me that I thought was interesting, that I think fans will see if they come out to State Farm Stadium. Come out tomorrow, by the way, open practice. Bo and I will be there. He said this is the first legitimate offensive line that he has seen in terms of size and depth, just the magnitude of their front five. I don't know if they're going to be the most talented group on the team or in the NFL, but I think this offensive line is probably the most undervalued position unit on the team.
They looked the part.
Yeah, I mean they are enormous. They are, and it's led by the two tackles. Humphreys looks like he's in tremendous shape, and Paris Johnson Jr. does not look like a rookie. I can't say that enough. I know people are probably sick of me, going off the deep end with Paris Johnson and Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson and Paris Johnson Jr. look like they've been in the NFL for like 3+ years, the way they're built physically. Now, Michael Wilson was at Stanford for like a decade, but Paris Johnson Jr., you can tell he was bred out of a blue chip collegiate program in Ohio State. Like, he is ready to play. He's ready to play on NFL Sundays. We saw the video, what he did to Zaven Collins yesterday, and they don't have pads on yet. So I may be jumping the gun a little bit, but I mean, there's a big difference between this young man and a lot of the other first rounders this franchise has drafted.
Yeah. Braden, we'll get into Petzing and his offense a little bit later. Some interesting insight into how the offense was navigating today with their quarterback. One was taking reps, but wasn't throwing the football. We'll get into that, and Colt McCoy, and should there be maybe concern about how they approach the quarterback position this offseason, and how much confidence do you have in Colt? And then there's 91 Claycomb saying, seems like they flopped Thompson, JT, and Simmons position, which I loved. You were out there getting your first kind of glimpse of JG, Nick Rollis's defense today. Yeah. Isaiah Simmons getting his teeth cut with his new position. What do you think?
I kept my distance from Isaiah. When I was walking off the field, he was right there, and I didn't make eye contact.
If he tuned into any PHNX Cardinals,
which we know he probably does not. Listen, Isaiah's at the top of the defense he's like, if you ever watch those early 2000 Raven defenses, he's like Ed Reed. He's playing that Ed Reed role. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. It's going to work out. Budda's the box safety, the strong safety, who's more versatile. I don't want to put a label of box safety to Budda Baker. And then Jalen Thompson slides down and plays slot corner. It's the secondary, again, like the offensive line, I think it's got a lot of talent. You mentioned to me, it's like Christian Matthews is playing a lot of outside corner. Obviously, Marco Wilson, I think is going to be doing extension sooner rather than later. Secondary's fine. Like, secondary will be just fine. I think the pass rush is going to be solid. I worry about the middle of the defense, and I hope that secondary gets opportunities to go and get the football. But Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, we're going to give them grace. We talked about it on yesterday's show. Like, they're transition. These are brand new positions. They're transitioning for the first time. But I mean, who would you rather have than Jonathan Gannon to help him with that transition? But it's a gamble at the end of the day. Speaking of gambling, so is our friends, the premier sportsbook, BetMGM. How about BetMGM swing for the fences? We were just out there, BetMGM State Farm Stadium. The landscape of BetMGM with PHNX Cardinals is about to change, because we are going to be on the Great Yard at State Farm Stadium every single football Sunday. Myself, Bo Brock, home and away. Come check us out at the BetMGM Sportsbook. And in the meantime, what are you waiting for? Download the BetMGM app. Log in the Sportsbook on your Android, iOS, smart device, whatever you got. Play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game throughout the rest of the summer up until September 7th. So right before kickoff for opening weekend, be a batter and pick an area of the strike zone. Depending on the area of the strike zone you pick, single, double, triple, home run, or pop out, you're going to get a prize associated with that type of hit. Now, you get one per day, and the pricing, you got to use it within 24 hours. So there is a clock ticking. It's a clock ticking on you downloading the app right now. Plus, we're going to hook you up. PHNX folks here in Arizona. Use that bonus code PHNX. Place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses with BetMGM. Again, make sure you're using that bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. And now listen to our guy, Shane Diefenbach, talk about it in the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-522-4700 Nevada. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
DJ Humphries talking about culture shock yesterday. It's going to be a shock to my wife to see how many beers I'm going to be buying out at the BetMGM Sportsbook. For anybody that shows up wearing PHNX gear, says hi to Johnny and myself on football Sundays. Can't wait to have you out there. But I'm buying Four Peaks. My allegiance, my loyalty.
Yeah,
it starts and ends with Four Peaks. Of course, the official beer of PHNX. We love Four Peaks. Kilt Lifter, the flagship. You've got the Wow Wheat, #1 wheat beer in Arizona. Johnny, what's your favorite? You got a favorite?
Pumpkin
Porter is coming back. You got the double pumpkin too. You got all the IPAs. You're an IPA person. Well, you can find something for everyone over at Four Peaks. Check out, of course, the OG location, H Street in Tempe. Here it's haunted, but don't be scared of the ghosts because the beer's worth it. It's brewed on location. They even have the barrel-aged beer, which is so smooth. Yes, classy, nasty. Yes, absolutely. Cheers to everybody out there. Clink of Four Peaks in honor of the AZ's original craft brewery. Check out what they have to offer. Got to be 21 years or older, of course. We ask that you drink it responsibly.
You mentioned haunted and scary shit. Colt McCoy playing team today with the Arizona Cardinals. So they invited the fans out today, which was great. Fans, robust stadium, open practice. They're running team. You got Michael Wilson out there. You got Rondell Moore. It's like, yeah, let's sling it around. Colt McCoy, number 12, QB1 right now, at least with the first team offense, is going through the motions and pumping to the guys he potentially could throw to and pointing.
Yeah.
Not throwing the football. And then we're thinking back, has Colt thrown a pass this entire practice? I know the 5th rounder out of Houston, Clayton Tune's throwing the ball around, threw an interception, but he's got a live arm. He's a big kid, right? Colt McCoy kind of going through the motions on offense, not throwing the football. A lot of people are saying,
literally.
It's
literally going through the motion. It is. That is literally going through the motion. Like what we saw from Colt McCoy in the first team offense. I'm really curious how other players on the first team feel about this because there's a lot of jobs. I mean, as Jonathan Gannon, as we showed you, I mean, everything's a competition, right? And you got the first team and you got guys like Zach Pascal, Michael Wilson, the rookie, who are vying for starting positions. And you got, Yelda Froholt trying to get the center position locked down. And I don't think this really impacts him as much, but the playmakers, the receivers, you got Colt McCoy out there, day 3 of training camp. And he's doing everything within the play outside of throwing the football. So he'll drop back, he'll go through his progressions, and then at what he perceives as when he would release the ball, he'd point to the wide receiver. And that was the extent of Colt McCoy. And then you would see the second team, Clayton Tune would come out there, and he was throwing darts, he was throwing the football. Jeff Driscoll was back there. David Blau, all the other 3 quarterbacks were throwing the football, but the first team, they either would run the ball and Colt would hand it off, or the ball would not leave his hands at the end of the play. 91
Claycomb, I bet he throws tomorrow, probably. But I think the greater point is it's day 3 of training camp. These guys have been off for 6+ weeks, and you can't throw 3 days in a row. You can't throw in one of the open practices. I'm going to share some insight with everybody here in the chat. We've got 130 of you like this video. Okay, leave a comment.
Are they going to like what you're about to tell them?
I don't know. But here's the deal. We have a source on this podcast. They were negotiating with Joshua Dobbs last March. They tried to get Joshua Dobbs here. They nickel and dimed it. I don't know if they regret that. Dobbs is in Cleveland. We'll see for how long. Okay, Joshua Dobbs played with the Tennessee Titans last year. Austin Ford had a familiarity. I would rather see Joshua Dobbs out there right now than Colt McCoy. And now I'm hearing Bo Brock. We've talked about this off air. Like everybody that running with the notion like Colt McCoy's the guy, he's going to be QB1. Yeah, probably. But I'm hearing like that. Let's just let training camp play out. So whether it's Tune or maybe it's a free agent, I would say there's like a 25-30% chance Colt McCoy is not the starter week 1. because
what was the percentage again?
25 to 30%. I would say it's probably going to be Colt McCoy, but like if this is the vogue, what's in vogue and what they're going to do over the course of training camp, like if Kyler Murray's not back for a month to 6 weeks to start the season, what are you doing? You're just delaying him to not be available when this team needs him. Do you go and do you talk to Teddy Bridgewater? Do you see if Joshua Dobbs makes it through training camp with Cleveland? I know they drafted the quarterback. They've got Deshaun Watson. It feels like this is the one position where they didn't add anything. We thought for sure they'd add a quarterback, whether it was Minshew or Jacoby Brissett. And who knows, maybe this is a telltale sign that they feel like Kyler Murray is going to be ready early in the season. But I'm not impressed with a guy who I feel like is a year away from retirement, not throwing day 3 of what relatively was. It was a low key practice today.
Here's what I'll say. At the back end of this will be the optimistic look to this after Johnny just basically was a wet blanket to this Arizona Cardinals season already.
No, it's that
or the quarterback position. But here's what I'll say. I mean, it is where you're coming off of watching Colt McCoy last season just take hit after hit, and credit to him for wearing all that and being the quarterback, in Kyler Murray's absence to take on more than a 36-year-old quarterback at the time should have the brunt of it that he took in behind a patchwork offensive line. 37 years old, coming off, calf injury, arm injuries. He had an MRI on his head at one point. His neck had to get looked at last year. It's concerning as far as, how available is Colt McCoy going to be going into this season? Sure. Here's what I'll say I'm not too concerned about today.
Okay.
Because he's out there. He's still running with the ones, and they're confident enough to put him back there, and they want him to literally go through the motions with the first team. And to Jalen Blair's point in the chat, and Darren Urban put this out on social media as well, Jonathan Gannon has mentioned they're going to have high-tempo days. They're going to have low-tempo days. Yeah, JG said everybody has their own maintenance plans, absolutely, and have high-intensity, low-intensity days. And this seemed to be a low-intensity day where maybe tomorrow when they knew first Saturday, welcome back, practice, scrimmage, whatever, is tomorrow, that they'll ramp things up and Colt will be back throwing the football tomorrow.
Yeah, low intensity, high intensity. I just can't. Low intensity, I cannot believe does not include throwing the football at all. Like, I get it. You're walking through the motions. You're trying to learn this new offense. That's great. And this is not a knock on Colt McCoy, the person. I've seen this before. And his body broke down last year and he wasn't available, right? And now he's going through a new team, a new regime, and an offensive line that I think is talented, but they're working out the kinks of what they want to be. To me, there's a very low ceiling. And I feel like you're potentially delaying the inevitable where you're going to have to manage and monitor his body over the course of these next 2 months. I feel like you can do better. The Cardinals clearly don't, at least not right now. They feel like with Colt McCoy, the amount of money they're paying him, he can get them to Kyler Murray. He can be the bridge to Kyler Murray. But for me, what's the contingency plan? I thought it was really interesting during Gannon's press availability. And that's really how we started the show today. And I want to touch on this because I think it's relevant as it relates to Colt McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked Gannon, is Clayton Tune the number 2 quarterback? And he kind of agreed with it, but he's like, nothing's set. Everything's up for grabs. And that includes Colt McCoy. I know people don't want to believe, like, Clayton Tune could grab this job, but he would have to play unbelievably well. He would have to light it up in the preseason, and Colt McCoy would have to regress to some degree, not be able to do exchanges, handoffs, throw interceptions. But
let's replay that. So we've got the open spots.
Yeah.
The answer from JG here.
Yeah, I think all spots are open for grabs right now on the entire team.
On the entire team. So, but here's what I'll say. Even with Colt McCoy, whether it's a low intensity day, arm maintenance day, Clayton Tune did not sniff the first team.
No.
And I'll maintain that, I think Clayton Tune is a guy that they want to grab hold of the QB2 job. At some point this season is going to given every opportunity. I mean, he's run with the twos. That's been his spot. And there's no concern, I think, with the team with Colt McCoy. It just seems like this is something that they were anticipating, that they had in place, that he wasn't going to do this. It's a bummer for the fans that went out there today to watch the first team.
To me, it was bizarre. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it is odd, but at the same time, every snap it felt like, and I think every snap was, the first team offense was run by Colt McCoy. And
yeah, I'm not disputing. I mean, we're 3 days into training camp. And what I also would say is something you've echoed, Bo, is that Tune is much more physically gifted than David Blau and Jeff Driscoll.
Mhm.
And I think that plays a part in it. But if they added a quarterback, I think that would put it into, I don't know, a little contentious area. What do you do with Clayton Tune? Is he number 2? And I don't anticipate them adding a quarterback anytime soon, but it is strange. You have this quarterback, this franchise quarterback that's coming back from injury, and we think he's coming back soon, but nobody really knows. Then you have this 38-year-old quarterback that's on a maintenance plan that was signed by the prior regime. He's still hanging around.
Are you talking about Carson Palmer or Colt McCoy?
Colt McCoy. And then you've got a 5th-round pick that's presumably the backup. It's just the most odd dynamic I've ever seen. I speak for everybody. I think I just want to fast forward to when Kyler Murray comes back. I don't want to deal with this minutia. I don't want to have to watch Colt McCoy run team offense and just pump and point to people. It's like, no. We got pads on. Throw the football. Let's get better by getting better and playing football. Gannon said that as much before. And again, he may never do this again. This could be a one-off. I bet your ass it's not, though. I bet they do this again.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I just don't think it's a great look. I love Gannon. I love everything they're doing. Get somebody in there who's athletic and can deliver the football for the sake of everybody else and for the sake of this team having a best opportunity to win against the Commanders week 1. Because if you're monitoring Colt McCoy's usage day 3 of training camp and you're going to go against the Commanders and that defensive line and then turn around and play the Giants at home, I'm sorry. It's asking a lot right now.
It was very strange. I'll agree with you as far as watching the first team kind of work on its choreography. And then you see
it looked like something from March or April.
You see the second, the third, the fourth teams, and you're like, okay, we're going to see the ball go up in the air again. And you did. And we saw Clayton Tune. We saw the good. We saw the bad. We saw one real bad, series from Clayton Tune where he threw a pick to Keytrell Clark, and then kind of he overthrew a ball to a very usual sure-handed Greg Dortch. It was a strange day. But I think tomorrow you go out there, I'm sure we'll see if Colt McCoy's not throwing tomorrow, then maybe my spidey sense will go up and be a little bit more concerned.
It's like Dennis Quaid in any given Sunday when they have that playoff game, and it's just like, just get me to halftime, Dennis. And they pull him at halftime.
Cap?
Yeah, right. That's and then they put Willie Beeman in. That's what it feels like. It's like, Colt, just get us to X point. I don't know if he can do that. What's X point look like? The Colt McCoy I saw today, who can't throw on day 3 of training camp, is not getting this team 4 to 6 weeks into the season. I hope he proves me wrong. You're going to have to prove me wrong, though, Colt. I don't believe that's happening.
Let's see what the chat's saying on this. Dylan Richards saying, okay, or K1 is ready week 1. Let's see what else we got. Blaine Clark saying, can Tune throw the ball? If he has the advantage over Colt, Tune out throwing the ball is important for the quarterback. Yeah, but as long as he's throwing it to his teammates and his receivers, I mean, I think that's the one thing that young quarterbacks really have trouble doing. And we saw him nearly throw a turnover yesterday, and we saw a turnover today. Johnny needs to pound a beer, according to Derek Fife. That's almost
I don't disagree with that.
Him trying to pound a beer is like Colt McCoy throwing a football. It just isn't. He's not capable of doing so.
Wow, that's rude. I can drink a beer if somebody gets me. Producer Emma, don't you go get one. Listen, I don't think I'm not sitting here. I don't think Clayton Tune's ready to start. Like,
okay, good.
I can be on the record of saying that.
But you're encouraged. You like the skill set,
yeah,
which I've been saying.
He's big. He's mobile. He's got a nice arm. Producer Emma, we can put these on display because they're fantastic. The Golden Lager, and then of course the Kilt Lifter. On the other side of this graphic. Friday? Here, I'll have one with my good friend Bo Brock in studio. Here's the problem, though, is that you're like Clayton Tune's the first line of defense. Cheers from Colt McCoy. Having maintenance issues 3 days into camp. I'm a little underwhelmed. Can I say that? But it makes me feel like they're going to run the football like 70% of the time. Most of what we saw today, 2 wide. I don't think 3 wide receivers were on the field at any point during team. And I'm going to tell you right now, the 2 receivers that were in there, Hollywood Brown had an off day, but the 2 wide receivers that were starting were Zach Pascal and Michael Wilson. Why is that? Because they're going to be your primary receivers that run block for you. And so, Rondell Moore was in there mixing and matching as a slot receiver. I didn't see our guy Greg Dortch get that much play on the first team offense, but I mean, you're kidding yourself if this is not going to be a James Conner right now, Keontae Ingram led offense against the Commanders week 1. They are going to try to pound the football. They just got that Swam guy from Tennessee to play tight end. Trey McBride's going to be in there getting dirty. They're going to make that game as ugly as possible. So why not make team ugly right now with Colt McCoy not throwing the football?
Man, and you look behind Clayton Tune, and it's 0-7 as a starter, David Blau, and 1-9 as a starter, Jeff Driscoll.
I just don't think they're going to be a part of this team
1-16
in September
as starters in this league combined.
Goodbye. Go away. Goodbye.
Does that breathe any confidence into a van? I just don't. It really is going to be fascinating to follow along. Like, one, can Colt McCoy, can he make it through training camp in the preseason? And it's going to be necessary for him to get preseason reps in the new offense.
Yeah, he can't take the preseason off.
And it's a new regime. They're not going to even entertain that. And he's going to have to prove to people that he can stay healthy. But, and I know with the new quarterback rules, how you can have, a third that you can
an emergency.
Yeah, you can have an emergency. So, does that make as many available once the rosters get cut down, at the end of the preseason? It's really going to be fascinating, like how Jonathan Gannon, how Drew Petzing, and how Monty Osfort view, that position with the very real prospect of Kyler Murray not being available week 1.
I mean, I think you look back 2 years ago when Colt McCoy was the starter in lieu of Kyler Murray when he had his hamstring, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they went to San Francisco and they beat the shit out of the 49ers.
It was ankle. Yeah.
And what was it? It was James Conner. It was play action. It was dump offs, right? It was make a play on third down when you have to. That's what they are attempting to manufacture. And I think they can do that to some degree. I don't know if Colt McCoy is going to hold up. And it was discouraging today, seeing on third day of training camp that Colt McCoy wasn't throwing the ball at all. I mean, it was a light practice, but other quarterbacks were throwing. I'll get off of it. I just want to say, hurry back, Kyler Murray. Come on now. We need Kyler Murray back.
I saw Colt make a pretty big time throw yesterday to Rondell Moore. And I was kind of surprised by it. The just what he got on that throw in a good way.
Probably kept him out of practice today.
No, he did not. It's just his arm. He just threw his arm out.
I'm out tomorrow, guys. Yeah, he'll complete 20 passes against the Commanders. Yeah, I'm gonna take next week.
It's in our camp day 2 highlights for sure. There's a Colt McCoy throw to Rondell Moore, who just fantastic route that he ran and got wide open, and Colt hit him downfield.
I want to get to one of these comments here. Yeah. Santana in the chat. Johnny, why are you so mad? Breathe, bro. Have you prayed today? I have prayed to the football gods, and I've asked them, please pray for a quick recovery for Kyler Murray. Also, please get Michael Wilson the football. I think I was a little bit discouraged because, we're trying to get clips for the show. And I was keyed in on number 14. How can you not? He's a specimen out there. And I'm like, he's open. Let's go, Colt. Get it in there. And he just was pumping it. And it was disappointing. I was also disappointed. Myjai Sanders didn't practice today. Mm-hmm. He's got a hand. Mm-hmm. And so his status is undetermined right now. And then Trey McBride looked like kind of a semi-off day for him as well. So
year 2 guy, yeah.
Yeah. So we're leaving the facility today, and Bo and I are getting off the elevator, and then Trey McBride and Michael Wilson were getting on the elevator together, and I just want to be like, this is my 3 best friends
guys.
Right here.
It's
Bo,
Johnny's guys.
It's Trey. It's Michael. And it's a lot of good stuff. But in all seriousness,
but it really was like a Dumb and Dumber, like, oh, big gulps, huh? All right, see you later. Like,
we like,
yeah,
get out of here.
It's like, get away from me.
What are you,
reporter nerd?
What are you, an intern? And then Bo reminded me that I'm like 15 years older than both of those guys, and they both pick me up like a rag doll. It is interesting though. You watch the dynamic of this offense; it is so different. Mm-hmm. They're under center 90% of the time, and they're huge men now. It looks like an NFL offense. I don't know. It might not match Kingsbury's productivity year 1 with the Arizona Cardinals offensively in 2019, but it's Zach Pascal and Michael Wilson and Trey McBride and these huge offensive linemen, and they're going to run the football. And again, they're going to try to muck up games, but it is refreshing to see. I think Rondell Moore's usage will be better. How can it not be? Greg Dortch is Greg Dortch.
He did run the football today, though.
Yeah, you told me.
There was a design Rondell Moore run, and if Cliff was somehow still the head coach of this team, it would have sent the crowd there at State Farm Stadium into a frenzy.
Do you feel like there's a player on this team that's being slept on either side of the football based on what you're seeing at camp?
I mean, I think you look at the linebacking core, I think it's kind of showing itself where it's going to be a Kazir White, Josh Woods, and then the corners. You talk about Christian Matthew. I think he's playing as of right now. He's playing opposite Marco Wilson. Marco Wilson, who you talked to today. I mean, he's one of those sleepers.
Yeah.
A guy last year that we were kind of like, what's the future of Marco Wilson hold? You know, he's losing his job at that point to Antonio Hamilton, where I don't think there's any question around Marco Wilson at this point. Right now.
I mean, Antonio Hamilton kind of third or fourth on the depth chart right now, and they're going with younger players. Christian Matthew, who was a late round pick last year, certainly has the size and the ability, but can he pick up Gannon's defense? And then I would also say right now on the defensive line, like Cameron Thomas is a starter. Majay Sanders is out right now, but I think he was behind Cameron already. BJ Ojulari, who we saw today, is working his way back. I think he'll be back soon. Like Cameron Thomas.
A lot of Dennis Gardeck.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. Zaven Collins is probably going to start, but I think he's still very much a work in progress. Like your best bet to get after the quarterback week 1, I think, is 97. He did it at the collegiate level. He did it last year, and now he's got an opportunity. Like he's going to play 90, I think 85, 90% of the snaps.
Yeah.
That opening weekend against Sam Howell. If I had to bet one player to break out on the defensive line this year, it's 97. I think Cameron Thomas is set up for immediate success. I'm not selling my stock on BJ or Majay, but BJ hasn't practiced at all, and then Majay Sanders got hurt. But I think Cameron again was ahead of Majay Sanders already.
Yeah, BJ is there when they're doing position groups. He's right there as the pass rushers are doing their drills in training camp, and you know I can hear him. He's asking questions. He's kind of mimicking what his teammates are doing. BJ Ojulari, who was placed on PUP to start this training camp after what Jonathan Gannon said he kind of cleaned up, had a procedure on his knee. I feel like he's close.
Yep.
I feel like Garrett Williams is close.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can't share too much on that, but I mean, Garrett Williams, I think, is going to be back before people thought he was going to be back.
Could he play in preseason potentially?
I don't think that's out of the question.
Yeah. I mean, there on day 1 at camp, we asked Jonathan Gannon, but mostly about Kyler. And he said BJ's close and Kyler is day to day, and going with that injury, you have good days, bad days. It's not linear as far as the development or the rehab on the knee, but it really feels like, the Arizona Cardinals are going to get those two, second and third rounders maybe before the start of the season, which would be good because you can start to evaluate, what Monty Ossenfort got in those rounds to where those guys kind of fell kind of in his lap and at premium positions. I mean, I'll say this, like Garrett Williams, watched the tape at Syracuse. He's fast. He's really athletic, and he's a ball hawk. We saw in the chat, Matt actually asked Garrett Williams. I didn't see that. Mr. J asking him about Papo. That was somebody I really wanted to key into today. Watching Papo, he's kind of on the field with Kyle Soley. So when you think about the first team, how I'm saying it's Woods and it's Kazir White, who Gannon said he's handling calling the defense for now. Degree dot for now, and it's probably his to lose, right? Mm-hmm. And then you kind of look like Chris Barnes is behind those guys. And then the third team, and Papo's seeing some second team reps as well, but not really putting too much on their plate. It feels like early in camp. No,
but we sat in the other room and watched Garrett Williams get drafted by this franchise. And I'm like, that's a redshirt pick. We'll see him maybe Thanksgiving. That I'm ready to be wrong about that. He to me, I think is going to be back way sooner than I thought, that other people thought. How quickly can he pick up Gannon's defense? But again, if what we've seen and heard kind of behind the scenes is any indication, like they're going to give the rookies immense leeway. The leash is going to be long. It's the opposite of Vance Joseph and Cliff Kingsbury. And again, people are asking, why aren't they claiming corners, signing corners? Our guy Trayvon Mullen was just released again today for an injury.
I saw Cam Dantzler was released by the Bills.
Yeah,
after the Bills picked up an old friend.
No, don't talk about that. Okay. Andy Isabella is a member of the Buffalo Bills, and producer Sean was in here earlier talking him up, and I don't have the stomach. After watching Colt McCoy not throw today, I can't talk about Andy Isabella to the Bills, but they are giving rookies the first crack at all of these jobs. Now that might not be the case in late September, October. If some people aren't ready, maybe they'll sign some players, but like John Gaines is the second team center right now. Michael Wilson is playing with the starters. Paris Johnson Jr. is a starter. B.J. Ojulari will play when he's healthy. Garrett Williams, etc. And, Owen Papo and Clayton Tune are going to be on the roster. This rookie class is the first class that will be given grace and patience by their head coach and general manager for the first time, it feels like, in 15, 20 years. I would feel blessed to be a part of this draft class if I was them, not only because you got drafted, but because the immense patience and the coaching that you're going to get from Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rawls, and Drew Petzing and company is elite. And the development that they're going to emphasize is something that was not prioritized by the prior regime. Yeah. It just wasn't.
Dylan asking Joshua is really a starting linebacker. When they go to nickel and they've got two on the field, kind of playing Mike and the Mo, he's going to play out there with Kazir White when it's going to be Penny, and there's one linebacker, it's going to be Kazir White.
Yeah.
There is Rashad Fenton and Hamilton. Hamilton, I commented to Johnny today, it just feels like he's not where he was last year. He hit that number 30. That's how old he is now. So we'll see if Hamilton can kind of jumpstart this camp and get back to where he was with this organization last year. And then the question about the offensive line, Nate was asking about the offensive line. What's it look like? Johnny, you got your first glimpse of it. Still seeing Ford hold at the center position. And then Elijah Wilkinson continues to hold down the left guard spot while it's Paris Johnson Jr. at right tackle. Right guard it's held down by Hernandez and, of course, DJ Humphries.
Yeah, and then they go 5 deep behind them. They've got Kelvin Beachum, Josh Jones as the backup tackles, and then they signed Pet Effline, right? John Gaines, and Effline's
Gaines is running
second team center, and Effline's playing some guard. So who knows? Maybe he's going to compete for the first team guard. So it's not a group that I would say is lacking on depth. Do they have a bunch of all pros? No, but I mean, they are going to try to be a downhill running team, and good hell. On that right side, Will Hernandez and Paris Johnson Jr., those are two top 40 picks. And in Paris's case, he was a top 6 pick, just running right at you. It's going to be 3-4 yards to James Conner and Keontae Ingram, flipping field position, and then hopefully bursting and breaking a long run. It's not going to be, hey, guys, let's try to have, a 3-down possession take 30 seconds and throw 3 horizontal screens in the process. They're going to try to establish a presence up front, at least on the offensive line, that has not been established in the Kingsbury era. That was in the Kingsbury era. I have more concerns about the defensive line. Rashad Lawrence looks like he's a starter. And then, of course, the guy out of Dallas, the veteran,
Carlos Watkins.
Carlos Watkins is in the mix. Lucky Fotu. That's a position group I still worry about.
Ledbetter.
Yeah, to me, it's like that group. The Cardinals are going to have the third waiver claim throughout the course of the preseason, and I think the first couple weeks of the regular season. If there's a starting caliber defensive tackle, a young player that they could claim, that's the position. Because I know a lot of people are pointing to corner. We're going to get to a point of the season, and it's going to be Marco Wilson and I believe Garrett Williams and then Jalen Thompson in the slot. I think they're happy with that group. Because they already play a ton of defensive backs anyway with Isaiah Simmons now at free safety. But man, oh man, like imagine if Rashad Lawrence goes down again, like your depth on the D tackle side of things is not there. So I would say that's the position group right now, more so than anything, that I would key in on as a potential upgrade option.
Yeah. I see Jose we're here with the 199 super sticker. It's what is that, a 1 with some balloons? All right.
All right. Colt McCoy, number 1 quarterback.
Kyler Murray's number 1.
That's true.
It's as far as I think we pretty much hit most of the positions.
Well, let's talk about running back. Because I mean, JG, you asked him the other day about adding a back. Keontae Ingram's number 2 to James Conner. Like I think they're just going to roll with that, for better or worse. Here's what I will say: like the running back group, it's big. It's not Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin back there. Respectfully to those guys. Like, I think they want big in-between runners, don't you think?
Yeah, and I like what I've seen from Keontae. And I don't want to, create false hype, but I know we had Damian Anderson on this show. He was one of our co-hosts for a long time. And he was in the pre-draft process with Keontae Ingram coming out of USC via Texas before that, and was one of the top Texas high school running backs and one of the top, high school prospects going to the college level. He's a guy that shows he looks smooth finding holes. Like he wasn't a speedster coming out of college by any means. I mean, he was a high 4.5 guy, maybe 4.6. But there was plays where I was trying to look at Paris Johnson Jr. play the offensive line. And I was surprised to see on the film Keontae Ingram find the hole, and it wasn't a large, rush lane for him, and he was finding it and he was looking smooth. And I think that, that's somebody that they're going to want to lean on, to spell James Conner. And when you talk about Paris Johnson Jr. and Will Hernandez being more geared to the run, it's everybody's going to know which side they're going to lean or, be more partial to running the football, the right side of the line. And then on the left side, you've got more guys who are geared towards pass blocking, right? And I don't know if that's necessarily good from a schematic standpoint or a strategic standpoint, but it's also like, hey, cater to the strengths of this team. And I know that Petzing, I know that JG and Rollis are going to do that. From a coaching standpoint, it's like, Elijah Wilkinson, your left guard so far right now, is more of a pass pro guy, and so is DJ Humphries. And then the right side's the setup for the run side.
Yeah, I think the biggest question mark right now is, can Yelderfrold hold down the center spot, or is it going to be a situation where he gets kind of Wally pipped at the last second? Preseason, if there's one reason to tune into the preseason, it's to watch our coverage. But number two is, let's see how things play out with this offense, because today it felt like certainly the defense was ahead of the offense. I think the defense, especially their back seven, it's got a lot of talent, right? That's what they got, first rounders, second rounders all over that back seven of the defense. The offense, to me, again, it's going to go and not go with who's under center. And right now, we just kind of remains to be seen how high of an operation they can have with a limitation at quarterback. And I'm talking to you, number 12, and I'm also talking to you about pins and aces. I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna save you 15% off. If you're not familiar with pins and aces, let me tell you about them. They're the official golf apparel of ALLCITY and PHNX. Big Drive Energy. Have you ever heard of them? One of the top golf podcasts available. My favorite polo at home, it's from our friends at Pins and Aces. It's a peacock and polo, because every time I wear it, people ask me, where'd you get that? Soft material, looks like something that you would get at a high-end luxury, boutique clothing store. But at the end of the day, it's going to save you money. Not only going to pinsandaces.com for a polo or whatever you need, but they've also got hats, golf bags, our favorite beer sleeve, an innovative product that allows you to store 7 beers right inside your golf bag. And again, their stuff's hot in the best possible way. It's going in and out of stock like that because of how popular it is. We're going to hook you up. Go to pinsandaces.com. Use that promo code PHNX. It's going to gift you 15% off your first order plus free shipping. Again, that's pinsandaces.com. Use the promo code PHNX, 15 off your entire order plus free shipping. And again, if you're like, well, they don't have my size right now, click that notification button. You're going to get an email. I promise. Stuff goes in and out of stock fast because this stuff is hot. People want it. It's breathable. It's perfect for these summer days in Arizona where it's like 200 effing degrees outside. Pins and Aces is going to hook you up. Breathable wear, pinsandaces.com.
Versatile. It's not just for wearing out there on the links or the golf course. It's something you can wear out to dinner. You can, as you said, you wear it around town. People compliment you all the time.
They do this. They do the fabric feel.
They do.
And sometimes
hey, don't touch
I'm into
me.
it.
Respect
Sometimes
my
I'm not.
Personal space.
Yeah.
Would you? Also, what's versatile is OGs. OGs is versatile as far as accommodating what you want from your cannabis experience, from your gummy experience. And what they have right now is nostalgia too. They've got that on tap thanks to their pink lemonade that they released at the end of last month. And it's the best gummy for the summer because it takes you back to sitting out there on the porch with an ice cold glass of pink lemonade. It just taps into it. It's delicious. And it's, of course, solid gummy, one of many from OGs. Check out their full product line, ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. They've got the all the decisions that are made easier. You can check out the fruits, the creams. They got the mixed bags. You can figure out which gummies are best for you. They've got the sleep time gummy as well. It's going to help put you to sleep, keep you asleep. Thanks to our friends at OGs. Check out what cannabis experience you want from our friends over at OGs, and then at ogsbrands.com, and then go buy them at your local dispensary. Got to be 21 years or older to purchase.
So Budda Baker met with the media today for the first time since added money was added to his contract for each of the next 2 years. And while I think, he's happy to be back, he wants to be here in Arizona. You can tell, you mentioned to me as we were leaving the facility, it did feel like Budda, is not satisfied yet. This is not like, with all due respect, the Humphreys and the Marcus Golden extensions last year when those guys basically, they got paid and then injuries kind of derailed their season. They kind of took the season off. Like Budda Baker is poised, I think, for his best season to date. I think he's pissed off. He feels disrespected. He even brought up, the NFL, rankings of top 100.
That was unprovoked.
It was.
He brought that up.
Yeah, and now I don't think so much where he was ranked, but like they're using an old picture of him as number 32. He's been wearing number 3 for the past couple of years. He wants to be paid and extended by the Cardinals. And I still think now that kind of we broke bread a little bit with both he and JG and Austin Ford, like that can still happen next offseason. If you're banking on one player to have a year unlike any other, and I think we're talking like 90, 100 tackles, a handful of interceptions, Budda Baker is poised for an all-pro season because the amount of intensity he radiated from that press conference room today, I think was very tangible.
Yeah, Budda Baker, is the first availability that he's had since of course, when he cracked his shoulder last season that took him out for the rest of the year, and he was able to get back to play in the Pro Bowl Frisbee competition or whatever the hell they do now.
Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. They play flag football. Budda Baker, basically, he was asked a lot of questions about what went down this offseason, and he was pretty tight-lipped about it, and basically came from a place of he can only control what he can control, right? And he understands that there's a business side to this league, and it's brutal, and that despite all the success and all the goodwill that he's garnered throughout his really impressive career, that it can go away tomorrow. And I think that he's saying that because he wants to be, given something to give him, because he plays, he practices, he trains like he's going to be here for the long haul. And I think he wants the team to reciprocate that.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And Monty Ossenford, I think, is setting it up to where they're going to have those negotiations potentially next offseason. I wouldn't be shocked if Budda Baker's going crazy this year with having a career year. If they say, hey, let's start negotiations a little early, right? Budda Baker is the epitome of what Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort want from this team. And it's just good that they've got him in a place where, and I don't even know if it might be better, the place he is in a mindset where he's hungry. He's even hungrier than he would be if they said, hey, you know what? Here's a giant check. Let's extend you. Like he's got something to play for just than he normally does.
Yeah, Ossenford was on the field, on the sideline, watching.
He's been all camp, by the way.
Yeah, watching as many draft picks, engaged with coaches and players, and he said that Budda did as much that his agent and Ossenford had really good conversations, and they'd been in touch for some time, and hopefully they remain in touch because you look at this roster itself, and I just talked about maybe the lack of star power. Like, could you imagine number 3 not being out there? It just, for me, like they have an ability now to have a strength in their secondary and at the safety position with the inclusion of Isaiah Simmons. Budda Baker has to be around. You have to have Budda Baker locked in with this team because your franchise quarterback's not available, right? He's rehabbing from a torn ACL. We don't know when he's coming back. Whereas number 3 is your glue guy. He's the player that people want to come out and see at home games at State Farm Stadium. And I think eventually he's going to have his name up in the Ring of Honor. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. So it's great. We're happy for him. And I think even today you could tell, like, everybody prepare yourselves. Budda Baker is going to have a great season. There was somebody in the chat, Danelle in the chat said, did anybody stand out besides Budda as an on-field leader, as another leader? I think DJ Humphries would fit that bill. I banged on Colt McCoy in the second segment. He's over there talking to Michael Wilson and Rondell Moore.
You dare.
I know. I think it's. I think it's Colt. I think it's DJ Humphries, and then maybe on the defensive side, I think Kazir White wants to.
Josh Woods for sure.
Yeah.
And you look at the receiving core. I don't know if Hollywood Brown is more of a guy that's going to lead with his actions more so than he's not going to be vocal, but when he's asked, he's saying all the right things to back up his teammates and show that his allegiance to his club. And that's good. I mean, I think that everybody's kind of following suit. This Jonathan Gannon is setting the tone. His coaching staff is setting the tone, and it's not just an empty calorie word anymore. It's accountability. And this team is I'm not going to say 3 days in the training camp, they truly understand what it is. I mean, it's going to take, if they come out of the gates and they struggle, what it's going to take to truly be accountable to try to dig themselves out of a hole. And that remains to be seen. But I think that they're in good hands as far as their head coach, their general manager, and they've got some decent guys as far as in the locker room, on the playing field, leading the way as well. But it's a great question, Danelle. I think that as far as who the other leaders are, after kind of a a change of regime where you got JJ Watt exiting, you've got DeAndre Hopkins exiting, and your quarterback unavailable. It's one of those things where it's up in the air.
No Byron Murphy, no Zach Allen. I will say
otherwise it's up in the air.
Yeah.
It's because with Budda, I think with him coming back, it's no longer a question.
But you need more than just Budda. I think Zach Pascal has been really engaged with everybody, especially these younger players. He's a glue guy that came from Philadelphia, Indianapolis. He's been around the NFL. Really good special teamer that I think is going to be a factor in the intermediate passing game for this offense. James Conner is going to fit that build. The offense is like the look at the defense, and the flash is on the defensive side of the football, right? The defensive backs are brash. They have a swagger and attitude about them. It's cliche and it's an old term, but the offense is going to be 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's going to be a very meat and potatoes offense. It's not the sex appeal of Cliff Kingsbury's offense, for lack of a better term. Like that's it's the furthest thing. If you guys were anti Cliff Kingsbury's offense, not the person, but the scheme and the philosophy of how Cliff Kingsbury did things, it's the opposite end of that. It's play action, it's dump offs, right? It's intermediate throws. They'll hit an occasional deep pass to Hollywood or Rondell, but I mean they want to be physical with the opposing defense, the defensive front. And that's encouraging because this franchise has really never been physical while their time in Arizona. Like you have to go back to like the mid to late 70s when they had a couple Hall of Famers on the offensive line where they ran the football effectively. Like they're trying to get back to that. They're trying to get to a point where when Kyler Murray comes back, it's like a finely tuned machine where he enters as a cog. And yes, in all his greatness, he can elevate this group certainly, but it's not, hey, Kyler, go save us in the second half against the Las Vegas Raiders. Hey, Kyler, go make a Hail Mary against the Buffalo Bills because we don't know what the hell we're doing. It's just completely different, and it's going to take time to implement that.
Yeah, and there was a question earlier in the chat, way earlier, maybe in the first segment talking about the offense. And Emmett, you don't have to look it up, but asking about the concern that we would have with Drew Petzing coming from Cleveland, or a place where they struggled offensively last year. Is like, look, this was an organization that put all their chips into the center of the table on Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson was not available for the first 11 games of the season, and rightfully so, right? They had Jacoby Brissett running quarterback there.
Yeah.
And it was an offense that was Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper. And that was the talent that was really, I mean, David Njoku maybe you can throw in there, but for the most part, that was the talent they had on the offensive side of the football. And I thought that they were able to make do. And I think that Drew Petzing has that experience trying to figure out a way with kind of being dealt chicken shit, making it into chicken salad offensively. It's possible. I mean, this was a team, if you look at the next level analytics, and John Costco of PFF pointed this out, they got open at a top 5 clip in the NFL, their receivers. So guys are going to be open, and it seems like they're going to be able to protect, and it feels like they want to run the football. And it seems like that's not exactly, splitting atoms offensively. It's pretty simple. And I think that the Cardinals, if it's not too much beyond that, and if the defense can kind of hold serve and not put them at too big of a deficit, it can just be like Cleveland, where they were, I think, more competitive than people expected last year.
Yeah, and I banged on Colt McCoy. I'll give the benefit of the doubt to Gannon, Austin Ford, and Drew Petzing. Like if they've seen enough from Colt in practice that they feel like he's going to allow them to be competitive in Kyler Murray's absence, that's good enough for me. I've seen Colt McCoy win games for this franchise on the road in the division. So, I'm willing to be surprised by number 12 one more time. I'm going to be surprised if everybody doesn't go to gophnx.com right now, though, and take advantage up to 50% off the entire merchandise locker. If you've been thinking, man, I like those T-shirts, I like those hats you guys have been rocking, I don't know if I want to pull the trigger just yet, my friend. This is the time. Up to 50% off. We've got T-shirts for under $20. We've got hoodies, zip-ups under $40. We've got premier hats you can't get anywhere else under $30. All you got to do, go to gophnx.com, click on the merchandise locker, save right now. And plus, if you're thinking to yourself, I just like one for free, Johnny, become a diehard. Every single year, you're a diehard at gophnx.com. You're going to get a free hat or shirt of your choosing. Every year it comes up. Look at those hats. Fantastic. My favorite is the white when I have a nice summer tan, right? And then it gets to the point of the year, I go back to the black. I love to rotate it. Although my wife's, saying I got some sweat stains on them, so I need to upgrade. I need to reload here. How about the
That's
Bird?
way past due.
How about the Bird Gang? How about the Hollywood Hills sign? We love it. How about the celebratory tee? Emma's going, we're playing the hits right now. I'm going to tell you right now, we've got some t-shirts coming up. So here's what I want everybody to do. Go and load up on PHNX Cardinals gear. Get all the gear, right? Come hang out at BetMGM. We'll buy you a beer every time you're rocking gear. And then this fall, just wait and see what the new gear looks like, because I'm going to tell you it's going to blow your socks off. But you can get all that and more at gophnx.com.
It was a fantastic read before you became my grandmother. It's going to knock your socks off.
It's going to knock your socks off, little Johnny. Get to gophnx.com. Do it now.
PHNXlocker.com. Absolutely. Take advantage of all the deals going on. Absolutely. There's also deals going on at foco.com. Actually, you were ranting just the last segment.
Yeah.
And I was cruising and perusing foco.com. All the Cardinals stuff that they have the floral large frame sunglasses. These are pretty elite. They've got the
I'd look great in those.
do you want the plaid bib overalls?
I think
Cardinals.
I'd love to wear that to training camp.
I mean, you talk about Paris Johnson, the excitement. Paris Johnson Jr. bobblehead is sold out at foco.com.
Love it.
But you can get yourself an Arizona Cardinals team colored isolated stainless steel mug, Yeti style. Why not? And get 10% off of it by using the promo code PHNX. We got several Foco items on our set that spruce things up, make it look cool. You got to do that for yourself. Go to foco.com. That's FOCO.com. Use that promo code PHNX. And you got, for all non-sale items, you can use that PHNX code for 10% off. I gotta say, like, on a Friday evening, just pumped that there's over 120, almost 130 people in here. Hit that like button. We're just getting started. We talk about the BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be hanging out each and every NFL Sunday for Cardinals games and away games. We talked about with our leaders of PHNX some very cool things coming down the pike on this that we are going to be able to talk about at this time next week. Make sure you're subscribed to PHNX_sports on YouTube.
I saw somebody in the chat say, you guys are covering the preseason. You bet your ass we are. We're
Yeah.
going to be out at BetMGM as much as we can. We're going to be doing post-game shows for every single preseason game, coverage you can't get anywhere else. That starts tomorrow, mañana, a special Saturday post-practice show. We're thinking probably right around the same time as media availability ends. We're going to run back to the studio, and we're going to get online with all of you to talk about hopefully a practice in which the quarterbacks are throwing and the receivers are catching. But again, like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports on YouTube, subscribe to the PHNX Cardinals podcast, get your smartphone out, whatever device you're rocking, go to your podcast, search PHNX Cardinals, follow it today now, because again, we're dropping exclusive audio-only podcasts here shortly with information you can't find anywhere else, but you got to subscribe to the podcast and show a little bit of class. Go in there and leave a 5-star review for your boy. Bo Brock, Johnny Venerable here. Banner week.
You know what? We'll even do this. If you go into the review section of Apple Podcasts and you just ask a question with a 5-star rating, we'll answer that question on there.
Oh, my God. I love that idea. And we're even tinkering around with
leave a funny anecdote or something that you observed as far as Johnny Venerable goes. Yeah, we'll read it on there.
Funny. Funny how? Like I'm a clown, like I amuse you. Tomorrow, post-game show from practice, maybe do an Instagram live, open Q&A. We got a bunch of stuff in the works, but we can only do it with all of you. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. Have a safe, happy, healthy Friday night. We'll see you tomorrow.